Hello. So our problem statement is about how the literacy rate in Indian state was affected and what factors could we work on to help improve the literacy rate of different states. We found data from Gaggle as well as the government website, which has the data regarding the literacy rate in different Indian states, as well as it has education indicators such as number of teachers, number of schools for Indian states, as well as union territories for the year 2015 to 16. We have done following steps like data understanding, understanding the data and providing statistics about it. We have done data preparation, showing how we clean and prepare the data. Then we have done statistical analysis, which means basically trying to find the relationships using quantitative data. Then we have hypothesis testing, which is done to confirm our observation about the population using the data within the desired error level. Then we have done correlation, which is basically a measure of linear correlation between two elements of the data. We have also tried to answer a few questions by doing this analysis, basically to figure out which state has highest and lowest literacy rate, and which three states are topmost and bottommost in the literacy rate, so that we can uh, tell them or figure out the reasons which are affecting the literacy rate of that particular state. And we also have tried to find out which state had the dropout rate in maximum. So basically, we have tried to import the libraries, that is pandas, matplotlib, seaborn, and numpy. Then we have tried to mount the drive and extract the data. We have read the data from the drive, and then later on we have tried to declare few functions which have been used in the further study. Then later on. We have also tried to explore the data, that is basically trying to find the size of the data set, and we have also tried to find if there are any null entries. Then we know that this data set contains different states along with their education indicator values. Then we also have tried to find out the states which are on topmost and bottommost on the overall literacy rate. Then we see that Nagaland had a negative growth rate from 2015 to 16 over here. See, yeah, so this is the one which state that the Nagaland had the negative growth rate. And we have also tried to find difference between male and female literacy rate for each state. Then we see that the standard deviation is pretty large for this, and we see that 50% of the states have difference in male and female literacy rate, as more than 13.72. That is particularly high, I feel. So later on, we have tried to figure out the answers for the questions we stated in the beginning, that is, which states have the highest and lowest literacy rate. Will try to find out. See, this is the one, the literacy rate comparison between different states. So we have tried to figure out which had the lowest and highest literacy rate. Now we'll see male and female and literacy rate comparison over here. So we see female literacy rate versus state. So we see Kerala having more literacy rate in female peer group, and in Rajasthan it's the lowest. And in otherwise in male, I feel Lakshadweep had the highest literacy rate, and Bihar had the lowest. So basically, we see the difference in literacy rate between men and women. We are trying to figure out this as well, that northeastern states have an less difference between male and female literacy rate. So that is pretty good that northeastern states have good literacy rate. Then we are trying to create a new feature, that is basically subtracting the female and male literacy rate. This will help in seeing the difference in male and female literacy rate for each state easily. So basically, we have done difference in male and female literacy rate. Then we have taken average difference in literacy rates. Then state which has least male and female literacy rate difference. Then states with the most male and female literacy rate difference. Then we have got to know, we have also tried to find out how the northeastern state perform compared to the national average. So we see there are northeast states, that are Nagaland, Manipur, Mizoram, Assam, Tripura, Arunachal Pradesh, Meghalaya, and Sikkim. So the average and difference literacy rate for northeastern state is much less than the national average. We also try to figure out that the female literacy rate for Meghalaya is 73.78 versus the average female literacy rate of 71.091. We get to know from this that we try to infer that the states with the highest overall literacy rates are Kerala, Lakshadweep, Mizoram, Tripura, and Goa. The states with the lowest overall literacy rates have been Bihar, Telangana, Arunachal Pradesh, Rajasthan, and Jharkhand. So basically, though the top states in male and female literacy rates remain the same, we see the bottom state they change. Meghalaya has the fifth highest number of illiterate males. The average female literacy rate for Meghalaya, though, is higher than the average female literacy rate. So basically, we see even though there is the overall literacy rate which is on a higher side, when we try to figure it out in the format of male and female literacy rate, we see there is a change in the value. Now we'll try to figure out how are the top three states different from the bottom three states and what factors can the bottom three states work on to increase their literacy rate. So for this we have tried to create a top bottom data frame that contains top three and bottom three states with respect to overall literacy rate. This will make plotting and analysis easy for us. So basically, we'll drop Telangana state because it has been recently founded in 2014. Later on, we'll try to go over the different features that we think that our state's overall literacy rate is dependent on. So we'll go on total population. So total population, we see the population density isn't being a factor for differentiating between the above two groups. Maybe having higher population density created more pressure on the government to cater to the needs of the people, and that it might be difficult for states of really high population density to do so. But the government of that state should be well equipped enough to make sure that people get access to education in that state, irrelevant of how dense the population is. So we don't see much difference over here. So later on we'll see the differentiation of literacy rate. That is basically we created the data frame earlier. That is the difference between female literacy rate and male literacy rate. But we see that there is a factor over here. We see that it creates a lot of difference. The differences are really high in states with low overall literacy rate. So even if the bottommost states have good male literacy rate, female literacy rates are really low, and that takes their overall literacy rate down. That these states really need to work on educating their females and increasing their literacy rate. Later on, we'll see about the rural population as well, urban and rural population. Uh, Later on, we see that these are the important components which helps in differentiating the literacy rate between the states. The rural population percentage in bottom three states is much more than the rural population percentage in top three. That is like that's an important factor to note. People living in rural areas lead to a very different life compared to the people living in urban areas. There is a less motivation to go to school in rural areas as a lot of people take up their parent profession or business. Also, often children are made to skip school and work at the farm. We also try to figure out using the sex ratio. Sex ratio is number of females per 1,000 males. So approximate national average of 930.888. So we'll also see that depending on the sex ratio, we see that has nothing to do with the literacy level. The graphs don't show much of difference. They don't show sex ratio affecting the literacy rate. Also, the correlation is too weak as well. Then later on, we'll also see about the we see that there is a SC and ST population which we have figured it out. We have seen that the overall literacy rate doesn't depend on SC and ST population proportion because these are very different for all above states. Now we'll try to analyze some school related features and see if they affect the overall literacy rate. These are the school total related variables that we can explore. That is schools by category, schools by government, schools by private. And we also have private schools, schools by category, boys only, schools by girls as well. So we have taken kids per school. We've taken number of kids in the age group 6 to 15, and that is elementary school kids, and number of kids per school as well. So we see that here we see that the number of kids per school is not a good measure to differentiate between the top and bottom three states. Though Mizoram has the lowest number of kids per school, Arunachal Pradesh and Rajasthan are close by. Bihar had the max number of kids per school. We also see that one of the reasons why this measure failed to differentiate could be that we don't know the size of schools, and thus there could be really big schools in Kerala but really small schools in Arunachal Pradesh. Thus, we don't get to know the number of students each school can enroll and manage efficiently. Number of teachers is the huge factor over here. Perhaps number of classes or sections would have been a better measure here, as we would have gotten to know the average class strength. Later on, we are trying to take um, kids per school as well as overall literacy rate. So we see there's a difference in number of kids per class, but it is significant, though Bihar and Rajasthan have a high pretty number of primary kids per class. The top 5 on average have lesser kids per class when compared to the bottom 5 states, with the exception of Arunachal Pradesh. We also see we can also take a look on different types of schools in these states. It might be that the states have having a high literacy rate have more private schools than government schools. For this purpose, we have some data preparation to allow for plotting the type of schools. So we'll see over here. We see the plot the percentage of elementary private government schools and Madras and comparing them with the national average. So from here we clearly see that Lakshadweep has only government schools and Kerala had the highest number of private schools shared in total schools, and is the only state here which has more private schools than government schools. Bihar and Arunachal Pradesh have really less private schools compared to government schools. Their percentage of government schools is more than the national average. Rajasthan has around 35% private schools, which is less compared to its number of government schools. Later on, we'll try to see which class had the dropout rate is maximum. We are trying to set the index as state name for easy coding. Later on, we are trying to figure out the total enrollments in each class and storing the column names and index for the about data frame and totaling the columns. So we see from this given graph that the dropout ratio was maximum in the 6th class, followed by the 9th class and then 2nd class. Class 4 saw a negative dropout rate, that is, more students enrolled and less dropped out when moving from class 3 to class 4, and that is some really good news. Now we have tried to import statistical model and PyLab. Here we have tried to figure out the statistical analysis over here. So basically, here we have the histogram states that the maximum states have literacy rate between 75 to 80, and the box plot also tells that the distribution is normal and data is symmetric. Then we have done hypothesis testing. We have done Shapiro test. That is basically it says the statistical value is 0.963 and p-value is 0.270. Then we have done t-test. Here we see the test statistic value is 24.77 and p-value is 0, and conclusion is that since p-value is less than alpha, we reject the null hypothesis over here. Literacy rate in India has been improving, but there are some key issues that need to be tackled aggressively, which we have tried to figure out in this particular project. So that it will help in improving the state of education of India. This is not just the job of government, it is also a duty of each and every one living in this country. Hoping that this project helps in figuring out the reasons or else problems which are affecting the literacy rate of India, and it will help our country to tackle all these problems. Thank you.